managed to make something which somewhat resembled the shapes I had in my original sketch. Then, to fill in some of the larger bubbly gaps in the foam and to give the whole thing more of a stony, natural-looking texture, which would be much easier to paint over, I decided to coat the whole thing in a layer of one of my favorite crafting materials, polyfiller. For real, I love polyfiller. It fixes everything. And yeah, once it was dry, I was actually pretty happy with the results and how successfully I had managed to pretend that I do this kind of thing all the time. Yay! I painted up the hills and cliffs in some natural stone colors and mossy greens, just using a dry brush and some glazes until it looked about right. And then I got a bit lost in making this little world and adding in and cutting up the little trees to different heights so that they looked more natural and to scale, and then adding in all the little bushes and plants and even this little flower field in the corner. It was so delightful and fun to do, and actually really relaxing too. But most importantly, I actually really liked how it looked when it was done, and as someone who hates things like basing and stuff like that, I was quite shocked that it turned out this good. I was quite pleased with myself. But with all the fun bits out the way, I had definitely left the most time-consuming and trickiest part of my entry for last, and that was making the fully painted hobby desk replica on the other side of my board. The first and most glaringly obvious challenge that I faced doing this half of my board was how the hell I was going to cut through some of these extremely tough hobby materials in order to make that very clean cut-off effect. Whilst cutting through a cheap wooden brush and some cotton wool buds was easy peasy, the tough rubber cutting mat and especially the ancient thick steel clippers seemed pretty impossible with just the basic tools I had at my disposal. Fortunately though, my friend Nathan came over to visit, and he's a builder and he has a van full of extremely sharp and dangerous kind of like angle grinder looking saws, and when I told him I was struggling, he kind of took pity on me and he managed to really cleanly cut through the cutting mat and even the steel clippers themselves. So I'm really grateful for that, Nathan. Thank you so much. The other thing that I wanted to do to make the illusion super impressive was to kind of like cut one of the paint pots themselves in half, because I felt like that would be a bit of flex. But unfortunately, when we tried to do some clean breaks, they just ended up shattering it into 1,000 pieces. So I kind of cut my losses there and settled for cutting one of the plastic lids in half instead. Oh well. But with all of my pieces, including the sprue itself from my aerial kit, cut up and mocked up in a pleasingly random yet carefully curated way, it was time to paint everything. And yes, I mean everything. I started out with something that I thought would be really easy, which was the cutting mat, because all I had to do was some basic measuring and get those little squares looking just right. But it turns out that I am really bad at maths, and I miscounted all the squares and my hands were wobbly for some reason, so the first attempt went all wrong. But I ended up getting it right on the second attempt, and the mat turned out great, and well, it just kind of looked like a cutting mat, which I guess was the point, so yay me. Next up was the paintbrushes, which I had dipped the tip of in some super glue so that the whole thing was super solid and kind of plasticky feeling. And yes, it felt about as weird as it looked to be painting a paintbrush with a paintbrush that looked like the paintbrush that I was painting. After they were done, I moved on to the clippers, which again I had thoroughly glued into position before painting, and these may be one of my favorite parts of the whole board, because I painted them so well that I managed to trick myself a few times into believing that they were my actual regular clippers. Like I tried to pick them up after they were glued down, and that was quite funny. I like that element. Then there were some easier parts to paint, which didn't take long at all, and honestly, it just involved a little bit of base coating and dry brushing, like the sprues, the clip sprue parts, and the cotton wool buds. But as usual, I saved the best for last, because what I was actually really excited to paint, maybe more than the Gundam itself, was the tiny little labels for my paint pots. Don't judge me. For some reason, I find the act of trying to copy something accurately really satisfying and relaxing, so the idea of making these tiny fake labels just kind of did it for me here. Because of that, I made sure to spend at least a couple of hours on both of the paint pots, trying my best to space everything out correctly, copy the Japanese characters accurately, and paint the barcode safety information and this tiny little Gundam head profile emblem as well as I could. I did side here, which is not allowed in the GBWC rules, but I made sure to paint over it before I submitted it, so few crises avoided there. But when they were done, I absolutely loved the way these little paint pots came out, and I think especially with the weathering I did on them, they look like a well-loved and heavily used part of anyone's hobby desk. After I'd spent some time, in fact, quite a lot of time, deciding on the correct angle to pose all of Ariel's shield pieces to complete the illusion that she was summoning parts from the hobby desk into her own world, all that was left was to glue everything down and put the whole thing together, and then with an entire 4 days to spare, I entered my finished board into the Gundam Builders World Cup competition. So all that was left to do now was to sit patiently and wait for the results, and also show you guys my finished entry. Roll the beauty shots. Considering I've never really done anything like this, or at least nothing this ambitious before, and especially due to the fact that I'm pretty new to this whole Gundam thing, I'm actually really pleased with how my entry turned out, and I'm pretty proud of myself for what I managed to achieve here, especially because I was on a pretty tight deadline too. I think if I had more time and another shot at this whole concept, of course, I'd have definitely done some things differently. Like, maybe I'd have spent a bit longer on things like the water effects, the Gundam herself, and making those painted elements look super realistic. But with all that said, I do really like what I've made here, and it's been a while since I've attempted something this big and this ambitious, so I really feel like I did something here. Good job, me. But once I'd entered my board into the Gundam Builders World Cup, I started to see everyone else's entries start to pop up online, and oh boy, were they good. Like, really, really good. But either way, in the usual way that arty people tend to do when they see something incredible, I quickly started to lose confidence in my own work, and I kind of resigned myself to being like, I will do better next year. Let's just focus on next year. Until just 2 days ago, I got an email. I got second place in the Gundam Builders World Cup Content Creator Subdivisional. And I'm definitely not gonna cry again. I kind of ended up having to rush this video out because I had loads of other videos planned, because I didn't think that I would hear back from this competition for months, but literally heard back from them like 2 days ago that I got second place, so I wanted to get this video out as quickly as possible because I'm so excited, yay! Of course, the winner of first place in the subdivisional went to Spencer with his incredible scenic desert diorama. And this is like the easiest and most correct decision ever made because it's actually so stunning. So a massive congratulations to Spencer on his big win. And in third place was Chloe with her absolutely adorable little Christmas SD Gundam diorama, which is just so cute, and I'm so happy that it placed. So a huge congratulations to her too. Although it's safe to say that I am officially out of the running for that ultimate big prize of a trip to Japan paid for by Bandai, I do win a perfect grade Gundam kit, which is like the fanciest, highest grade that there is, and also a personalized engraved trophy, which won't have arrived probably by the time I edit and make this video. So pretend this is me and my trophy. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone who Photoshop believed in me. But I guess what this whole video proves is that it doesn't really matter how new you are to any hobby at all. If you like it and you share your genuine enthusiasm with others, and you work hard to actively take part in that hobby, and you push yourself to improve your skills, then you may find yourself being rewarded for something you just love doing in really unexpected ways. But with that, I'm afraid that is all we have time for today. As usual, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for being rogues. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye.
Abay pala, naus mo na yan. Makilipan si Kendon. Tagabit, get it! Sarap
I have said many times in many an intro on this channel, I am a huge fan of Warhammer. And you are to act surprised every time I say it because sometimes I don't know how else to intro my videos, so surprise. I love collecting, painting, and yes, even the act of building these little guys. And for the last 10 years, I've been more than willing to pay what often feels like a hefty price tag for just that experience. And even though throughout that time I've consistently heard people complaining that Warhammer is too expensive, and especially that the quality of the product you get isn't actually that good compared to the heavy markup that Games Workshop puts in it, I've always kind of ignored those comments. Partially because I wasn't exactly spending like £500 every other month to build a new army, so I felt like my spending habits in the hobby were quite reasonable, and also that 50% staff discount was so nice. But mostly because in my mind, Warhammer plastic and even resin is a premium product. And a premium product means a premium price, right? Well, I want you to know that I am currently sat here making this video for you as a kind of emergency broadcast of sorts, because recently my entire perspective on Warhammer miniatures and what makes a good, fun, affordable, and buildable plastic kit has been absolutely.
Hello everyone, welcome to Low Budget Otaku, and today I'm bringing you a different video about concepts. Now, let's assume you started collecting not too long ago and you don't have, a lot of experience. You also don't have a lot of local stores because you don't live in America or Japan. And so you have to buy online. Buying online can be a little bit scary because you're searching on either several stores or, to be easy, in search engines where several stores sell, like eBay. And if you're not careful, you can buy something that you didn't mean to buy, or sometimes pay more by something that actually is not worth that much money. And if you are online for some time trying to search these things, you'll find several terms appear. Bootleg, fake, knockoff, third party. What does this all mean? If you're not very versed, you may think it's something to do with cowboys. Maybe even shirtless cowboys. You're not thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. Hey, there. Better? So the term bootleg is actually very old, and its meaning has been applied for several things. Mostly bootleg was created in the time of the cowboys when they used to steal things and hide them in their high boots. But the term became really popular in the time where the liquor and selling liquor was forbidden in the USA, so you had people fabricating and selling illegally liquor. After that time, bootleg started being used for a variety of products that were being sold without authorization, without the legal procedures. But what about specifically for action figures? Well, we mean bootleg when we are talking about a product, a figure that is copying existing figure, but is actually made by China. It's not made by the real company.
Yo, what's up, Monzi? How going, man? How long building the kit since yesterday? Maybe 'cause I was also repairing the RG. So the RG Strike Freedom. I'm gonna because I made a mistake, so I just decided to kit bash. I think maybe I'm past 10 hours now. Maybe 10, 11, 12. So I had to repair it. A lot of stuff there. And it's a hand grenade and a little bit of modding. Uh, the only thing that I built with Mighty Strike Freedom is the what I'm building right now, the Proud Defender and the body and the arms. But I'm using the RG body right now and the RG head. So I just decided to slap on the RG head. That's already built at the moment to save time and also to see some progress. So yeah, so that's the runners left for the that's still Mighty Strike Freedom. So it's like maybe like 60% left of Mighty Strike Freedom to build. Hope you got that.
Need to mix the figure, so it's basically a cheaper version of that figure. Most of the times you have the exact same box, or at least at first sight it's the exact same box. The figure itself comes with everything, the other one comes, but normally the plastic is not so good, so articulation sometimes is not so good. Of course, the materials themselves tend to be cheaper. Unfortunately, this can lead to some sellers trying to sell a bootleg like it was the original, and that can be a slippery slope. Then we have the term third party. Third party is a bit different than a bootleg. Even though some people still classify as a bootleg, but I think the distinction needs to be made because a third party actually has its own brand. So you have a name behind. The box is different. The name itself is changed slightly, not to be mistaken with the original. Sometimes the third party is based on the original brand figure. Sometimes actually it's completely original. They're making it based on the character, but they're not basing it on the figure that already exists. Sometimes it's based on a figure that already exists but brings extra things or some slight changes. In the end, well, it's still an unlicensed copy. It's not pretending to be the original. While the bootleg would always be cheaper than the original figure, sometimes the third party can actually be more expensive than the original. Because sometimes a third party will actually put the work to make the figure even better than the original. Or it can be a completely new design that is really well made. For cases like that, I actually advise, for example, to watch some videos from Job in the Hub, where he's reviewing a Shredder figure, but it's not called Shredder, but it's actually a third-party figure, not based on any figure that there is. And the figure is really high quality and actually very expensive. On the other hand, the bootleg, because it's just mimicking the original and with cheaper materials, the price will always be cheaper, and sometimes it can be like 1/4 of the original, and that can be very tempting to buy. The big problem is that the quality control, of course, will not be up to par with the quality control of the original. You can get a really good figure by a cheap price, but you can also get a figure that comes with paint defects or other kinds of problems, and you can check my channel for some of those cases. So I hope that makes you understand the difference between those types of figures. Now, you're probably thinking, well, but doesn't this hurt the company that actually makes the figure? For the most part, not really. Because for the most cases, they sell out the figures before the figure even comes out. They release the pre-order, you're getting closer to the date, 2 months, sometimes 3 months before the figure comes out, you cannot buy it anymore. Now, that's weird because I see the figure be selling and it's being sold by a lot of different stores. There's not many of them, but they're being sold. Now, this is why I actually am not completely against bootlegs and third parties. Because when a figure comes out, what happens is it gets shipped to certain stores that are selling it and with the pre-orders, and sometimes some stores buy a lot of quantity and instead of just selling the figure normally, they keep some units to resell after some time at a higher price. Because unlike most things in life, where with time they become cheaper, like cars, houses, CDs, video games, figures very quickly become valuable, become collector items, allowing sellers to very quickly raise the price, especially when they sell out immediately when they are released. Because of this, some people that collect, but are not like hardcore collectors, didn't get the opportunity to pre-order at the time, and suddenly they find themselves in a situation where they want the figure but they cannot afford it because it's being sold at 2-3 times the original price. And that's where bootlegs in action figures are a good thing, because they can give those people the opportunity to get a figure that is not as good as the original without selling their kidneys. And again, the company that makes the figure themselves already sold all the figures, so they are not losing any money at all. Who is losing money with this? The stores that didn't sell all the figures at the original price and push the price up after the figure became rare, because now the units they are selling overpriced have a lower chance of being actually sold. And I'm not paying them that much. Sell them at the original price. But remember that I told you that not all the cases are the same. For example, model kits of Gundam. Gunpla, it's a different beast altogether. Why? Because Bandai doesn't stop releasing the kits. They make the kits and they keep releasing more units. So you never actually have a shortage, and you actually almost never have that thing where the kit gets overpriced. But you have some third parties that do the kits. So for the most part, yeah, in those cases, the difference in the price is not that high, and I would advise going for the Bandai ones because they are high quality. The difference of price is not that much, and supporting Bandai helps to bring new kits along. And in that case, Bandai can actually do some money because of the competition of the third parties. But I wouldn't discount the third parties completely out, because they actually do some kits that Bandai does not do. And this is the result of, for example, one of the latest kits I got is the Virgin Metal build of the Strike Freedom Gundam from Japan. You don't have this kit from Bandai. What you have is a figure called Metal Build that costs a lot of money. It's not a model, it's a figure. But Japan actually took the figure and turned it into a model kit that is sold by price of a normal master grade, even below what the normal master grade goes for. So if you like that design, you have the choice of paying like 400 euros for a figure that is beautiful, it's an amazing figure, or you can buy a model kit, have the fun of building it, and at least you have a model kit with that design. Now that I'm not against. Final thoughts. The action figure model kit market, it's a market that is very much always filled with bootlegs. And you need to know when you are buying a bootleg and when you're buying the original, not to pay the price for original and get a bootleg. In my country, for example, in cons, in conventions, there are a lot of stores that sell bootlegs, and if you don't know what this is, you're buying a bootleg almost at the price of the original, if not at the price of the original. Sometimes buying online is actually easier to tell, because or protection from sites like eBay or AliExpress. But thankfully, I have a bunch of stores that I trust that in those stores, I'm buying an original product. And again, when you're buying a bootleg, you need to be aware of the risks that you're taking in terms of quality. You must be aware that sometimes you're like making a gamble. It can be an amazing figure, or it can have its problems. So I hope this video helped clarify these issues. Sorry I was late on the Wednesday schedule, but unfortunately yesterday I broke my phone, I cut my finger. Oh, it was a mess. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. If you want to see great figure and model kit reviews, hit that subscribe button. Hope to see you guys next time.
Here at the Skin White Stimulation Center, we infuse high-quality protein extract with 2 times milk and 100 times vitamin E. Nature's goodness, expertly activated by science. Now with a better than ever Skin White Papaya Glow. This will fuel ang glow Papaya Skin White Papaya Glow.
When it comes to Mecha Model Kits, Gundam plastic models, or Gunpla for short, reign supreme. They have it all. They look incredible, feel incredible, pose incredibly, and are insanely collectible. Face it, it's the greatest hobby to ever exist. Ever. When you bust open a Gundam kit, 9.9 times out of 10 you're guaranteed an awesome time. Bandai just doesn't screw around. But even with a plastic Gundam,
Kakarot 197.
If there's one thing that the Titans love more than committing war crimes, it's making all of their stuff as modular as possible, whether it's their mobile suits or the weapons those mobile suits will be using. So today, let's have a look at one of those modular weapons, or as the Titans called it, a system weapon. Not to be confused with a weapon system. The idea behind the system weapon concept is that a single core weapon could fulfill a number of different tasks by either changing out or adding various parts to that weapon. And this wasn't a new thing. It's said that this idea dates well back to the Middle Ages, with one of the earliest examples being the German MG34. By changing the bipod to a tripod, it would change roles from a light machine gun to a medium machine gun, and it would also allow for better and heavier optics to be installed on the gun. During the 1 Year War then, we would see some system weapons, but it wouldn't be until the Titans and their TR plan that we really got to see a system weapon in full force. The idea behind this TR plan was to make a next-generation flagship mobile suit that could have its equipment switched out to fit with almost every conceivable mission. And part of this package was, of course, also its weapon. Based on the legendary RX-78-2's BOA XBR M7907G beam rifle, the main weapon of this plan was the BOA XBR M86C2 beam rifle. Or, during development of testing, it was also called the Next Generation Flagship Beam Rifle. It kept the general shape and idea of the M79, but it got some important upgrades. It was outgunned from 1.9 to 2.6 megawatts, and it got the brand new EPAC technology. The M79 was revolutionary for pioneering the use of ECAP technology, which allowed a mobile suit's beam rifle to pack the firepower of a battleship's main cannon. And it also had enough ammo to make it usable in real combat. There was only one real downside. The ECAP was built into the beam rifle itself, and the only way to recharge it was to head back to base and hook it up to a recharging station. So once your 12 to 15 shots were up, the M79 was dead weight for the rest of the battle. The EPAC, on the other hand, took that design of the ECAP and turned it into a quickly changeable magazine. So recharging the M86 was quite literally just as fast as reloading. These spare EPACs could be stored on the shield, the side skirts, the arms, or wherever else you could find space for them, and they could then be hooked up to the beam rifle in a variety of ways. The two most common configurations were either a single or double EPAC, but there were also plans for a revolver-style 6 EPAC system. It's not known if this concept ever saw combat, or if it was even built in the first place, because so far, the only thing we have to go off is this concept art. It does sound pretty wild though, like just imagine how much beam birth you could give to a Hazel that also had these sub-arms equipped. And the performance could be even further enhanced by various simple attachments, and also a lot of not so simple attachments. First up, we had an underslung grenade launcher that was developed as part of their plan for the next generation flagship mobile suit. It was tested out by the Hazel Kelderic, and is also known to have been used by the refined Barzam, but not the planned next generation flagship mobile suit. It's shaped like a hyper bazooka, and it comes with a magazine carrying multiple grenades. The second attachment then was a high-performance sensor. Technically, this could be used with the stock M86 for increased accuracy, but there are no records of it ever being used in this configuration. It already came with a pretty good sensor built in, so there was probably little use for an added sensor that realistically would only weigh the weapon down for only a very small benefit. Another potential use for the sensor was reconnaissance. But again, we have no records of it being used in this way on the M86. We'll get to the configurations that do use this sensor later on in the video. The M86 would also be produced under the model number Blash XBR M86B and would be most famously used by the Gundam Mark II, which is also how it ended up in the hands of Anand Electronics, who would make an almost identical copy of the M86 with the model number AEBR XBR87C. But we're not here to talk about Anaheim's variants, so back to the Titans. One of their main stated goals was, of course, patrolling the colonies for any anti-Federation activities. So they wanted a small and compact beam rifle that would be very usable in these confined conditions.
Pag malamig ang morning, hirap gumising. Morning rescue! Ang Lucky Magic may real chicken taste. At napakasarap na mainit na sabaw. Pampagising sa umagang maginaw. Lucky Mami.
For example, the interior of a colony or an enemy base. This then led to the development of the XBR M84A, or as you could also call it, an M86 without a barrel. The M84 would be extensively used by Gunpla and Hazels, and it would typically use the double E-pack. And we also have this one picture of it using the high-performance sensor. Our next variant then is the beam sniper rifle that was mainly used by the Gym Sniper 3. Its most basic configuration uses the M84 as a base, with a longer barrel for better beam convergence and range, and a beefier stock. This heft was not only there to balance the rifle, but it also contained systems that would amplify the power of the beams. This weapon could then be even further enhanced by attaching the high-performance sensor and the standard Federation bipod. This sniper rifle would then be further developed into the long blade rifle, here referred to as the long heat barrel. The barrel is made even longer, and instead of a bipod, a heat blade runs across the entire barrel, giving it both long-range capabilities and close-range capabilities. And thanks to the length of the barrel, and consequently the heat blade, you could pretty much classify this thing as a spear. The stock then again serves to amplify the power of the beams, but this time it also has a few extra tricks up its sleeve. The stock can be connected to the shoulder armor to not just make it more stable when firing, but also to directly supply it with energy on the mobile suit's reactor. This weapon was mainly used by the Fruitadoo, and would later on be upgraded to the enhanced model by adding an extra strap to the barrel. This no doubt enhances destructive firepower even more, but at the cost of no longer being able to use the heat blade. Our next weapon then is the beam launcher, a very powerful beam cannon that is again created by adding both a new barrel and a new stock to the M84. But here, the little beam rifle is almost completely covered by add-on parts. It's so big, in fact, that it's designed to be folded in half when being transported. And it comes with a sub-barrel that could still be used in this stored state. Of course, a giant weapon like this was meant to be used by equally large machines, like for example the Rosette TR4 Dandelion and the Gundam TR1 Hazel with the Icarus unit. Although for the latter, I question how good of an idea it really is to equip a mobile suit that is designed to achieve atmospheric flight through mostly raw thrust alone with a giant beam cannon. I guess this is the test configuration we have to thank for the barrel and significantly smaller weapons. Also, to really drive home the compatibility of the system weapon, the barrel would also be used on the custom beam rifle that was used by the Barton high mobility type Verving. It also had the standard issue bipod, the high performance sensor, double E-packs, and even a super napalm pod. But why just have a big cannon when you can